Welcome back. We'll call this part 2 of shooting a micro budget feature. I can't exactly say day 2 because this is not day 2. This is about day 4. Day 4 is sort of interesting because there isn't much of a breakdown to do because I didn't use many lights. In fact, I only used a small little Pixel G1S panel for most of these scenes. Some of them I didn't even use any lights at all, at least none of my own. This was one of the shooting days where I knew we were going to be kind of low in crew. So instead, in my head, I kind of thought, I'm like, okay, I think we can really, get this done with like pretty minimal lights. So all I packed in my bag really was a small pixel light and just brought my camera, and that's how I planned on shooting the scenes for the most part. We've shot in this alleyway before. Like I said, this is an extension of the short that we shot some months ago, and we shot in this same exact alley. At the time, I wasn't shooting B-roll, I was shooting ProRes, and I shot this alley in, I believe, at f1.7 at ISO 1250. And this was at the time when I was kind of scared of going up to 3200 ISO, simply because, it's just not as good as 1250 in a lot of cases. At least that's what I thought beforehand. But throughout the past couple months, I've been using ISO 3200, pretty frequent, and I've been liking it a lot, and it's pretty clean, especially now editing the B-roll in Davinci Resolve. Before, I was just using the ProRes, and if you shoot at ISO 1250 in ProRes, any ISO is baked into the image. You can't change that later. You can only change the exposure. Can't change your color temperature, none of that. So you're kind of really locked into what you have, and if you go too dark and you want to get lighter in those shadows, it's going to be really tough because, you're already baked in that contrasty look, and if you try to bump that up too much, ProRes doesn't have as much dynamic range as the B-RAW, so your image is going to break a lot quicker. Now with B-RAW, I'm not scared at all to shoot at ISO 3200, even higher in some cases, because the noise reduction and the sharpening features, all the tools in Davinci Resolve are just top notch. Final Cut Pro's denoiser sucks ass. You can't use that with ProRes at all, and it sucks, and I don't know why it clogs down your system so much, but it's trash. But you would have to get a plug-in for Final Cut Pro, like Neat Video or something like that, which I didn't want to do. So that's why a majority of my projects I shot ProRes HQ and try my best to nail exposure somewhat in camera, giving myself some room, and then later I can bring it down just slightly if I needed to get, the perfect look that I wanted, so I can keep my shadows clean and stuff like that. But I tried really, really hard to get it perfect, the first time around, because I didn't have that control. I knew that we had all the street lights, the alleyway lights and all that, and I knew at 3200 we would still get a little bit of that blue in the night, so it's not pitch black back there. And you can see on his arm, it's not crushed or anything like that. We can see a lot of highlights. We can actually see the face, and we can see an highlight in our character's eyes. So with this one specifically, I just had the Pixel G1S off to the side over here, and the majority of the color temperature that was in the area was those, sodium vapor, orange tungsten color street lights. So that's pretty much what I set the Pixel G1S to. And in the back, there were also, different colored lights. There's specifically the one behind our actor's head here is just some garage light that's probably rated at about, daylight. And it's not anything too special. This is just a really easy way to light a scene, just to get some punch on your characters if you need it, with smart framing and knowing exactly what you can do with your camera and whatever lens you have attached to it. Another thing that really helps a lot that, that's been helping me get my look is using Cineprint16. Basically, it looks like this. So I compound the entire Cineprint node structure into a compound node, and then I have a couple of outside nodes out of there, which I got false colors on there for one, for just checking that, and that's about it. I don't make any major changes on the outside nodes. I think that'd be destructive to the node structure, so I just try to keep everything inside of the compound node. So for instance, if I want to change the exposure, I'll go to the exposure node. If I want to change the white balance, I'll go in the white balance node, saturation, and everything else. It just kind of makes it easier. You can turn things off and on and just keep them in that specific node, and that's what that node is controlling. So some of these nodes down here, like lab saturation, den plus sub, I don't really know exactly what they do, I'll go inside of them sometimes and turn them on and off and see what it does for the image. If it, doesn't do much, I just leave it on and don't mess with it. I'll also come up here to camera prep and just select everything Blackmagic, Blackmagic Generation 5 film, all of that, just all Blackmagic color space. Here you got halation, that's pretty much built in, and I've always found myself like kind of wanting something a little extra, so I just throw some halation down here sometimes and then connect it and dial it in myself just a little bit extra. You never need much because it's subtle. You really want subtle changes, but sometimes I want a little extra. NEX matrix changes the colors or something. Again, I don't really know. Dust adds dust and scratches. The lab does something with the colors, which sometimes I'll turn it on, sometimes I'll turn it off. Just depends on what I want. I just kind of turn these on and off to see what image I get. If I don't have a set look beforehand, I kind of just go in with color and just kind of play around until I get tired of it and be like, all right, I gotta call it quits at some point. And then we got the Cineon and the print film. I usually use the print film. I've been using the print film for this entire film. I really like how it looks. I haven't used Cineon too much, but in either of these nodes, you can turn those on and off. You can go inside of them, and they have some LUTs that you can pick from. And I have a LUT that I use for exteriors, and then I have one that I use for interiors. So there's two different LUTs, but that's pretty much it inside of Cineprint16. And then I adjust my colors all in here too. This is pretty much, I use this pretty much as my own personal node tree, so I kind of gotta learn what the rest of these nodes do in due time, but until then I'm just gonna use this as a starting base. Here goes a couple of shots. This one right here is just them standing under a street light. Again, we get a lot of information using 3200. I just really like how ISO 3200 leaves some exposure in the sky. It's still kind of like blue tinted up there. It's not just completely a black wash, which I enjoy. And then you got this street light, which is illuminating everything in this area, and then plus that halation, just giving that pop on all of these highlights down here. Like, it just looks really good. It's centered on these characters. I just really like this shot, and it's just using the street light, just in the wide. Here with the train tracks, again, I had the LED panel just off over here to the left side, and this was just really to give them something in the shadows. I know on my waveform, everything is pretty much purple and blue, down here, and the background is, where the lights are. This panel light was really just so they wouldn't be in full silhouette. I still wanted to see them, but not just, just blackness. I still wanted some shape. From that train scene, they're walking up here to the building and they're meeting some friends, and I just left everything just down like this and dark, and let these shot into the lights and just let the silhouettes walk into each other, and they'll meet in the light. As you can see here, I really like these shadows right here that the light on the building is causing them. You can see there's edging them back there, lighting up the space throughout this whole walkway. And then once we get closer, they're actually gonna meet about where they're standing, and they're gonna be like further back when they actually meet. We're gonna cheat this backward a little bit for the close-up. So as you can see here, we're about side level with that light that's up here to the left. And what that's doing is it's actually key lighting our actors here. It's giving him an edge right here, and it's giving her a key, because this light, if you can look at this one back here, is spilling down this wall. This one over here is spilling on this wall as well, and just making a pretty soft light. It's not the softest thing in the world, but for it to be just outside a night interior, it's pretty nice looking, at ISO 3200. And then we have the Cineprint16 on there. I really enjoyed this. It'd be bad if this wall wasn't, if these lights wasn't on the building, because then we would probably have to bring out the Arris, place them maybe, back here somewhere, blast them forward, and get a softbox out, and for the close-ups, try to avoid the light and things like that. Shooting like this with the lights just on the building and just going free roam like this really allowed the actors to move around and allowed me to move around within the scene and get everybody's coverage without having to worry about placement too much, which on a small film like this, you usually don't have too much time. And we was cutting it close, it was getting kind of late, so shooting like this was pretty effective, you know, when you know the situation you're going into, you know, how you're going to handle it in post, and you know what works and what doesn't work. It all comes with just using different light fixtures and just practicing, and make sure you find your location, see what all lights are around your location, and see if you can use those lights within your scene, because 9 times out of 10 you're going to have to anyway, because you can't really, you know, I'm not getting on no damn ladder and touching those lights and putting no trash bags over them or nothing like that. So I just work with them. Can't beat them, join them. And then here, another one, you know, that same light is blasting down on them. The only problem I really, you know, kind of didn't like though was on the reverse frame. You know, it's kind of flat right here. So I'm still trying to figure out a way to make it a little less flat. I'm probably gonna have to keep it like that. It's probably just gonna have to be flat. You know, that's one of the downfalls. You know, you can't really control the light. You know, if I had like some neg on each, you know, each side, some negative fill. I don't have negative fill that big, and we'll see. I'll keep playing with it until I'm content, but I think it'll be okay. These are just some extra exteriors that I caught while we had some extra time on set. That's pretty much it for this one. Like I said, it wasn't much of a breakdown, but really just kind of a reflection, you know, in a kind of a learning situation, and kind of we're getting to the place that we ultimately want to be, you know, at least with image making. So I'm really excited for the next couple shoots, and hopefully we can talk about some of the things in those too. I honestly think this is the big key for any independent filmmaker with like minimal resources, shooting on smaller scale night exteriors, supplementing already existing sources and amping things up with your own lights, be it a softbox, fluorescent tube, or in this case a single pocket sized light. It's pretty much the way to go. We were also shooting wide open at f1.4 on the TTartisian 17mm. That definitely helped. I really like this lens, I ain't gonna lie. This lens is pretty dope, especially for micro four third sensors. If you got a micro four third sensor, look at the 17mm TTartisian. I'm telling you, I won't steer you wrong. Like I'm really trying to refrain from saying that it's as sharp as a Sigma 18-35. I know that's not true. But to me, I think the colors render like a Sigma 18-35. It renders color to me. Like that's what it reminds me of. I don't know. It's hell of a lot sharper than my Takumar. So I'm coming to realize. So at least at f1.4. So yeah, this lens is pretty dope, man. I really like it a lot. It hasn't left my camera. I thought I would be shooting, you know, with the 50 a lot. I thought I loved the 50, man. I thought I was a 50 dude. And the 50 wasn't even a 50. It was like a 60 something or a 70 almost, really. But still, I thought I was a telephoto guy. I guess I'm switching over to standard, man. But so I guess the big takeaway is when shooting night exteriors, if your scene doesn't require something specific that's essential to the story, if you don't have many lights or not enough power for your old ass tungsten lights that kill your portable generators in 20 minutes, then just use what's available to your best ability. Get some light